Alright, I'm over here at this shell bark hickory tree that the landowner's daddy told me about here about, I don't know, 9 years ago maybe. Okay, let me get this camera back here. I'm going to pick some of these up already. There's some on the ground here and I might just put them on video and bust them. The tree looks to have a good supply on it, okay? Now they're not all falling off yet. So you give her about 3 weeks. 3 weeks, probably 85% of them will come off for sure. A little wind, okay? Get this camera back in. I've got some here on the ground. There's some got a green shade to the hull still. I'm going to pick these up. And I'm going to take them home and I'm going to just do the video and show how to bust them and see what comes out of them. A certain person on the internet claimed I put a post of pecans on there instead of hickory nuts. Well, when you see what comes out of these the way I do it, you'll see that I was telling the truth, and we'll put the picture that I put up there that I was accused of putting a picture of pecans up, and I'll put a picture of these right here up, and y'all can make your own decision. Okay, here's a few of those nuts I picked up out one of that shell bark hickory tree, and I'm gonna bust a few of these darker colored shell ones, or at least one. They may not be no good. They could have fell off prematurely. But if they are good, they'll bust out a little better because they'll be drier. But I'm going to save enough where I can show how you do this, okay? Probably do another video later, too. Okay, I've got some of these shell bark nuts here. Now, I've done busted this one here. Here was a bad one, but this was in one of those darker hulls, okay? Premature nut that had failed. This one here come out of these more faded green hulls, okay? This one here. Okay, what you're going to do is when these nuts fall off, this part here is going to get fairly loose. But every now and then, you're going to find one that's tough, okay? And you can take a knife and go in here, open it up just like that right there. Now, if it gets hung like this right here, best thing to do is to go in here on the stem right there and get behind it with a knife and prise. Don't try to go in the sides here. Now that nut's still pretty green there, but we're going to bust this. I'm going to show you how to do it. Okay, and I'm going to do that right now, and then we're going to bust all these right here, crack them open. Now I use this knife right here, a broken knife actually, okay, to bust these nuts, or cut them actually, okay. You don't have to use a hammer this big, but it's the only one I've got at my disposal. These nuts are oblong shaped, okay, so it'll lay sort of flat. 2 different ways, all right. Let her lay oblong, put the knife more or less in the center, open her up just like that right there, okay. Now, when these nuts get real dry, this is as far as you got to go, and you can use these wire cutters right here to bust these nuts. But since these are green, we're going to go one more step. We're going to quarter it. So you go back over the top again, like that right there. Same over here. The nut will actually shrink inside the hull or the shell as it gets drier, okay? Now that nut there is drier than this nut. You can tell by looking at it, by how dark it is. See how pale this one here is? And the shell that this one come out of was this color versus this color, okay? So we'll just use this one right here. Now, usually what you'll find with these nuts is you have what you call a male and a female side. That's what I call them. Right there is probably the female side of this nut, these 4 portions here. So the key is you need a good quality set of wire cutters, because hickory is tough, okay? And these will get dull. I probably need to sharpen these a little bit. But I'm going to go ahead and show you here as you get out here on the end just like that right there. See that in that camera? And you squeeze down. And you stay long ways out on the ends. Don't come in here or it'll bust your nut, okay? Now these are still pretty green too here now, so it may not turn out exactly right in the camera as what you'll get when you let them dry. Because that shell is going to hold on to that nut more, okay? Look at there. See what you got? Now that's what was in that picture that I posted. A whole bunch of them right there, I think, sitting in a pan. All right. Now these nuts will vary in size a little bit. Okay. We're gonna lay that up there. We're gonna do this half here. Again, you got to get out here to the ends. Now, it's very deceiving looking at this nut here. There's a lot of nut on toward the end here that you can't see. It's hidden. And when you crack it with these pliers here out on the end, now some nuts will be easier than others. See that right there? On the other end, you play with these and you'll learn. You know, you'll have nuts that bust easier, and you'll learn the ins and the outs. See, that nut's still trying to hang on there pretty good because it's still too green. Okay, for a real good demonstration, and my nuts are probably going to come out a little smaller pieces. Okay, because it's still hanging over the shell. So there's a piece. Now if these nuts were drier, I might have got all of this out right here in one piece. Okay, I'm not joking you. I wouldn't fool with these if they weren't worth fooling with. I can bust a quart of these nuts, nut like that right there, in about 35 minutes, 40 tops. I can have a quart bag full of those right there. Okay, now see how deceiving this looks right here? Again, you get out here on the end, you bust it. Now see, I can tell these are still fairly green because of the way they're busted, but now they're sort of strangely shaped inside. They're sort of like a kidney, the way they lay, about the shape of a human kidney. And you got to stay out here on these ends, okay? If you get too close to the middle, it'll bust your nut. Yeah, see, these are still a little bit too green, but it's all right. I'm gonna do another video later when they're drier to show you. But you get the idea here. Okay. See, now if you get, that's about as far as close to the end as I can get right there. Okay, and there, that releases that nut there. See that one? We do this one here. See, now if that was dry, that right there would have done probably popped off. But you can tell by how cream colored that nut is. They'll get a little golden looking when they get dry. Even the center part will get a little more golden looking. Okay. See, it's not wanting to release as easy as it would if it was dry. Okay. Now here's one that's real green. We're going to try this one here now. Okay. See there? And come back in here. Try to keep your pliers running long ways on the nut. Now that right there, if this would have been dry, this nut right here would already be out. Okay. See, that's a pretty good sized little kernel right there. That's a little more than a fourth of that nut, okay? Because you're going to have two smaller pieces. Now, see how easy that one there is? And that's even green. If that was dry, I would have had it out. I'd be on the next part already. Okay, I can tell I busted enough of these. Look at there. You see that in the camera right there. Now that's what was on that pie pan there, but now see the difference in the color? Drier versus green. Okay. Now you can put these in a dehydrator even if you let them dry if you want. I hadn't. I let them dry and I give them to people and they eat them in ice cream. I got one friend over here, he loves them. These things are delicious. But a squirrel, they don't like these nuts like they like other nuts evidently. See there? Now we're going to do this one here. I'll do another video with some drier nuts. But when you play with them and you get used to how they sort of have a pattern to them. Okay? Now you'll get a little oddball one and it'll make it harder to bust. Okay? But you see that most of those pieces, now these are green. Do you see how big those are? You see how big those are right there? Now a lot of people at first glance would think those was pecans. Okay, but they're not. They're not pecans. Now, Somebody might try to argue with me, say, well, a hickory is part of the pecan family. Well, that may be true, but a pecan is not a hickory. A hickory may be a pecan. I guess we could say it that way. Okay. Now these right here, like I said, they'll get looser. Okay. See, that's really too tight to. You can hurt yourself with a knife trying to open these up right here. So I'm not even going to do this one here. Well, this one here looks like it's a little looser. Okay. But it needs to dry out some more. These things start turning out on the ends, a lot like these right here, but I think these fell off premature. See how small it is? So I'll do another video, but that's just the first little demonstration. And when they get dry, it's pretty quick production here, okay? It's worth doing if you can find one of these kind of trees. Now, this is the only hickory nut that bust out like this as good as these do. Some of the others I've tried, this part is a lot thicker. See how thin that shell is on that nut? Look at how thin that is, okay? So when you see a nut that big right there, now that's a small one, that's a premature one. But you wouldn't think there's much in it, but the shell is so thin, okay? Whereas some of these other hickories, like a shagbark, it's got a much thicker shell, especially down here toward this part in here on the ends. And boy, it makes them a bear to try to bust like this. I've tried it and I didn't enjoy it. But this is your first demonstration, and I'll do some more later. I hope you enjoyed.